Got my next section of movies from my physical media collection to share with you today. Let's just jump right in because these videos are taking way longer than I expected them to. We're going to go through everything in my physical media collection: DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, all sorts of good stuff, and check it out one by one. So let's take a look here. Up first, we have Eagle Eye. It's a movie I haven't watched since the year it came out. I liked the movie in theaters. This was back when Shia LaBeouf was really knocking it out of the park. 2008, post-Transformers. DJ Caruso, who directed him in Disturbia, which I think is a better film. But yeah, this one right here, this one has been completely forgotten by time, it seems. Easy A, I can't remember if I own this or if my wife owns this. It doesn't really matter anymore, I guess. But this is one of her choice high school movies that she watched quite a bit when she was younger. And I've seen it the once with her. Eddie and the Cruisers and Eddie and the Cruisers 2, Eddie Lives! Which, spoiler alert for the first one, really. My dad has both of these movies, and so I actually had an opportunity to get both of these movies, and so I did. I actually don't know what these are about at all. I have no idea. So I'll be honest with you. I got these because it was a super inexpensive sale, and my dad owned these movies, so I thought it'd be fun to watch them so I could connect with him on some of the movie choices he really likes. Up next we have a checklist for, let's see here, Eddie Murphy. This is a 14 film collection, and it has 48 Hours, Another 48 Hours, Best Defense, Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2, and 3, Boomerang, Coming to America, Dreamgirls, The Golden Child, Harlem Nights, Norbit, and Vampire in Brooklyn. I've seen more of these than the ones I haven't. I've seen both 40 Hours movies. I like the second one a bit more. Best Defense is a very forgettable Dudley Moore team up. It's not good. It's not a good movie. The Beverly Hills Cop movies, of course, we've covered those. We had a Blu-ray set with the bees. Boomerang, rom-com, R-rated rom-com, very R-rated rom-com. That's funny at times. Coming to America is an absolute classic. I adore that movie. We have it on 4K. Haven't seen Dreamgirls. Haven't seen The Golden Child. Haven't seen Harlem Nights. I have seen Norbit. It's awful. Trading Places is great with a significant problem in its third act that's really hard to watch. And I actually kind of like Vampire in Brooklyn, so. All right, Eddie the Eagle. This is one of my favorite sports movies ever. I love underdog sports movies, and I like really absurdist underdog sports movies. It's why I like movies like Phantom of the Open, about the world's worst golfer. This movie is so much fun. I think Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman are perfect together. Eddie the Eagle is delightful, and it says so on the cover, so I agree. Up next we have Edge of the Axe from Arrow Video. I bought this actually. I just got this in the mail right before starting this video, basically. This is Jose Ramon Larraz, who directed, we had that Blood Hunger box set in the Bees. He directed this film. He also directed Whirlpool in that set, Vampires, and The Coming of Sin, as well as a couple other films. I checked out Whirlpool, and I knew I was going to have to check this film out. There was an Arrow sale, so I added it to my collection, but I haven't watched it yet. Edge of Tomorrow. I am thankful to say I have actually finally seen this movie, because the last few times I've brought this one up, I hadn't seen it yet. Groundhog Day, sci-fi, alien kind of movie. It's pretty cool. I wasn't as shocked, flabbergasted as other people, but it uses the concept well. I enjoyed Edge of Tomorrow quite a bit. An Education. I picked this one up from Blockbuster when they closed. This was nominated for Best Picture in, I believe, 2009. I loved this. This was one of my favorite movies from the year it came out. I think Carey Mulligan and Peter Sarsgaard play a wickedly interesting couple, but it's really her story. Nick Hornby, who wrote High Fidelity, wrote the screenplay for this. I really liked An Education. It is such a sweet character that Carey Mulligan plays, and this was like her introductory film. It's been a while since I've seen it. I really should rewatch that one. And we have Edward Scissorhands on Blu-ray. This is it's not one of the Tim Burton movies I grew up watching. I'd seen clips, but never really watched this until maybe late high school, early college even. Just kind of got swept under the radar for me, but I think it's a delightful and very cute little romance film that is set with Tim Burton's aesthetics. I think it's pretty damn good. And it definitely has appeared more frequently in our Christmas watch list. All right, up next we have another Tim Burton movie, two back-to-back here. This is Ed Wood again. I think I watched this for the first time last year. This is a movie I should have seen before. It is a movie about movie making. It's a movie about horror movie making, about B movie making. Johnny Depp is terrific in the film. everyone's terrific in the film. Actually, Martin Landau is wonderful, and Bill Murray is. I mean, it's just everyone's good in this movie. And I like that it's a B movie about making B movies. Like the opening titles with the crypts and stuff, and like the narration. Like, yeah, this was my jam. This was very much my jam. Elf on 4K. I have not been a huge fan of Elf, and I've tried. I've tried a bunch of times to watch it. The movie's fine, but like I don't care about this movie. As a fan of Will Ferrell, it's just never really worked for me at all. I don't really get it. I kind of find him annoying, kind of like James Caan did. We have An Elf Story. This is an Elf on a Shelf movie in 3D. It's really terrible, but it came with an Elf on a Shelf that we picked up. So, all right, up next we have Elizabeth, and we have Elizabeth the Golden Age. I got these at a used store. I just hadn't seen either one of them, and there was a 2-pack with both. So I figured I would jump in and watch that. Up next, we've got a couple Elvira films, and these aren't the Elvira films, but Elvira episodes featuring films. So this is The Doomsday Machine and Werewolf of Washington, and we also have Count Dracula's Great Love and Frankenstein's Castle of Freaks. Those are Elvira's Movie Macabre episodes featuring the full uncut films. It was a pretty cool little Shout Factory release that they did. It's hard to find Elvira episodes, like with her asides edited in. Sometimes you can find clips of the asides, and then you can kind of watch them concurrently with the film. It just makes a really difficult experience to try and uncover that kind of stuff. So when I saw those, I really wanted to have them in my collection. Up next, we have Elvis on 4K. This movie is easily my favorite Baz Luhrmann film. As well as one of my favorite films from, 2022, the year of release. I loved Elvis. I think it was fantastic. The style is just dripping with excess. This is a movie that's like a 6-hour movie jammed into like 2 hours and 40 minutes. And a lead performance by Austin Butler that's fantastic. You know, the Tom Hanks of it all, I get why people don't like it. It didn't take away from the movie for me. There's so much good in there. All right, we have Elysium. The second major Neil Blomkamp film. I didn't dislike Elysium. I thought it was fine. I don't love the movie like I do with District 9, but I expected it to be terrible, and I was very much not the case. All right, we have 2 films by Jean Troyel. I'm probably saying that wrong. This is The Emigrants and The New Land. These I got because it was a box set at Criterion. It's one of the simple little 2-pack ones, but both movies are excessively long. So... 191 minutes for The Emigrants and 202 minutes for The New Land. I just was like, well, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy the hell out of that. I don't know anything about those films, though. Up next, we have The Emperor's New Groove and Kronk's New Groove. I had not seen either one of these when I picked this up. I think I watched both last year. The Emperor's New Groove, I actually kind of liked. I thought it was a good little movie. It's short, sweet, and to the point. You know, it's like 78 minutes, and I was entertained with The Emperor's New Groove all the way through. Kronk's New Groove, however, is another one of those sequels that was really compiled from several episodes of a failed Disney pilot, like how they did with Atlantis. Was Fox and the Hound 2 like that? I don't know. They've done this with some of their sequels, though, and Kronk's New Groove is terrible. Empire Records. What's the character's name? I don't know. I'm not going to waste time on that. One of the guys has a day named after him, and people watch this. This was super cheap at Target. I picked it up. I liked the movie. I checked it out a couple years back. It was a lot of fun. I hadn't seen it until I picked it up, though. But it definitely has that like Clerks feeling, but at a record store. So, Employee of the Month. I was a big Dane Cook fan when I was a teenager. I don't really have a lot of drive to watch. His comedies doesn't work for me anymore that much, so I have it, but I don't think it's a movie that I see myself revisiting terribly often. Encanto. This is a movie that, a lot like Coco, kind of felt very simplistic during the first half of the film. And then something happens. There's a little twist in there that I didn't see coming that completely recontextualized the film. So much like Coco, I wasn't feeling this one for like half the movie. Well made, but just wasn't really hitting for me until about halfway through the movie, and then I just adored it. I thought it was fantastic. It has to do with, like the we don't talk about Bruno scenes and that kind of stuff. Like, the movie's got great music. Absolutely great music. We have Enchanted. I like when Disney's able to poke fun at itself, and this is a movie that does poke fun at Disney a little bit and pokes fun at those, fairy tale trope. So it makes fun of a lot of that kind of stuff. And I find Patrick Dempsey to be incredibly charming. I think Amy Adams is fantastic at pretending like she's in this world. Enchanted is a really good movie that we don't talk about too much. Maybe a little bit more because of Disenchanted coming out on Disney Plus, which, by the way, I've not seen. Let me know in the comments section if you have seen that one. Up next, Encino Man. We have... I got this at a garage sale my neighbor was having. And right when Brandon Fraser won the Oscar, we watched this for the first time in about 25 years. And it's very stupid. And I kind of like it still. But Pauly Shore, and then we have Sean Astin. It's really funny that Sean Astin's not on this cover because for years he was probably arguably the most famous person in this movie. I think Brendan is kind of overtaking that now with his Oscar win. But yeah, Encino Man it's a very stupid movie. It's kind of one of those you had to be there movies, where I think you had to grow up with the right time to enjoy this one. And while I didn't watch it that often, I watched clips of it all the time. I would catch it on TV, and so that kind of ingrained me to it. Up next, Ender's Game. I've never read the book. I've never seen any film adaptations. I just inexpensive movie. Picked it up when it was really cheap, and with intention to buy it. And I do have the book, so I kind of want to read the book first. Envy. This is a movie that I talk about when I tell people, like, those movies that have such a great concept and you almost have to convince yourself it's good. And I hate this movie. I really hate this movie. I think this is so dull and boring and stupid. And I'm sorry if you worked on this film and you're watching this video, but I hated Envy. The thing is, I like the idea of envy, whereas these two guys, one of them comes up with a really great concept for a product, and the other one basically takes it and makes themselves incredibly rich, and then it becomes two people friends who now like hate each other. There's a funny concept in there. This movie is so dull and boring. I can't stand it. But I've watched it 2 or 3 times in my life, thinking maybe this will be the time that I like Envy. I hate Envy. I'm going to keep it, though, because it's a collection. Aragon. Having not read the book, I thought the movie was okay. I didn't dislike the movie at all. But I haven't read the book, so maybe I'm missing something in there. But I don't think it's that it's a bad film. It's probably just not a great adaptation. This one. Eraserhead, an early David Lynch film, and one of the first that I was actually able to see. I had watched a lot of Twin Peaks at this time, so I was aware of David Lynch. But this is probably one of his first just narrative feature films that I actually got a chance to check out, and I love this one. It is one of my favorite horror movies. It is a horror movie. It is a dream narrative, and it is so weird and crazy, and I love it. I love it so much. Guys, watch Eraserhead. It'll make you terrified of everything around you. All right, up next we got a couple more box sets from Criterion. The first one is Eric Rohmer's 6 Moral Tales. This has The Bakery Girl of Montsou, Suzanne's Career, My Night at Maud's, La Collectionneuse, Claire's Knee, and Love in the Afternoon. I think I've seen the first 2 of these. I like a box set that's got short films and features, and they're mixed together, but they're part of a narrative purpose. And so it's not just a bunch of Eric Rohmer films. It's Eric Rohmer's 6 Moral Tales. And the reason why I mention that is because we got another Eric Rohmer set right after it here. But I've seen the first couple. Very good with character interactions, with making those people that kind of pop out of the film for you. And people that you feel like you'd know. We also have Eric Rohmer's Tales of the 4 Seasons. So a tale of springtime, a tale of winter, a tale of summer, and a tale of autumn. So, again, just the same way. It's got a narrative purpose for these 4 films together. It's not just a bunch of his movies. But I would accept that too. I just like that they're done like this as well. So, haven't seen any of those. Ernest Scared Stupid. Dude, the opening credits for this movie took me back. Because I had forgotten how many times I watched this movie, but watching it with the opening credits and then and having him reacting to classic horror movies, it's, oh man, such a nostalgic piece for me. The movie's actually pretty creepy too. Up next we have Escape from New York on 4K. This is the Scream Factory edition of the film. Fantastic. I used to have this one on DVD, and we actually got to go to a screening of this on film at one of the theaters in our area that actually uses couches instead of theater seats. And we actually got to do it with a Q&A, I think after the film or before the film, with one of the actors from the movie. And it's not Kurt Russell, it's the guy who was drunk at the bar and passed out. So he doesn't contribute to the film at all, but he answered like half hour of questions. It was really funny to me. I also have Escape from LA on Blu-ray. The less said about it, the better. I know my brother-in-law Pat adores LA more than New York, but he's wrong. He's wrong, and you're wrong. I know film is subjective, but he's wrong, and you're wrong. Everyone's wrong. This is rough, okay? And I'm still a John Carpenter fan, but that's near the edge of the John Carpenter-ness. We have Escape Plan. I think I've got digital versions of the other two. It was a weird acquisition of mine, but we have the Escape Plan films. I've never seen any of those. Up next, we have Escape Room and Escape Room Tournament of Champions. There are two films here. I don't know if we're going to get a third because they weren't terribly successful. They're movies that I think if you work past the ludicrous nature of the film, like if you can get into the filmic language of the mythology that they're trying to unravel, they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to watch. Especially the second one actually has two different cuts, and they are drastically different cuts of this film. The theatrical version and the extended cut, there's like 8 minutes difference, but like I'm talking like the third act is completely different. So worth watching because you can flip a coin and just see which version you're going to watch. I don't know which one of them would be canon in an eventual third film, but they're very different movies. So, okay. Up next we have The Essential Jacques Demy. This has 6 of his films. This has Lola, Bay of Angels, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, The Young Girls of Rochefort, Donkey Skin, and Une Chambre en Ville, or A Room with a View. I've seen every film up to Donkey Skin. I have not seen Room with a View at the end. I should. I plan on it. I know I will, but like just haven't gotten to that one yet. So let me just run down here. Lola, I remember liking Lola. Was Bay of Angels that's the one about about casino gambling addiction. That one's pretty good as well. It's not bad, but when I got to The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, I fell in love. It is one of my 2 favorite romance films of all time, Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and I just get lost in it every time I watch it. My heart swoons for that movie. Beautiful music. The I Will Wait for You being used in the musical piece of that there, and then being able to watch that on Futurama later on. Just fantastic. Young Girls of Rochefort, I don't love it, but I like it. I think if I watched it again, I'd probably like it a lot more. Donkey Skin, which is a very odd film. It's Jacques Demy's fantasy film. It is based on a I think it's based on a specific tale, but I don't remember which one it is. Well, unless it's just called Donkey Skin. But yeah, Catherine Deneuve plays like this woman who's trying to avoid having to marry her father. So she fakes her death and like takes on wearing like a dead donkey's skin. It's such a weird movie. Oh, it's so weird. And then Chambre en Ville, which I have not watched. Up next, we have a 4K of E.T. the Extraterrestrial. I have owned E.T. 2 or 3 times. This being the latest one with the 4K edition of this film. One of the problems is when you buy a ton of movies, if you're trying to keep 4K alive, don't send me these like netted up, like busted up wrappings and stuff like that. But it's such a good movie. I'm not gonna fight that. This is a lovely movie that I just don't watch very much. If I was gonna ranking Steven Spielberg's movies, he's pretty much made all bangers. So the fact that this is just one I don't watch as often, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Up next, we have An Evening with Kevin Smith. We also have An Evening with Kevin Smith 2, Evening Harder. A Threevening with Kevin Smith. And we also have Too Fat for 40 Kevin Smith. So I've got a bunch of those Kevin Smith DVDs. They're basically like long-form discussion documentary DVDs, comedy specials, you could even say, where he's getting questions from the audience and answering them. I think they're all just a lot of fun. I think Kevin Smith is an incredibly funny person to have on a stage and just let him ramble for a few hours, and they are very long, but they're worth it if you're a fan of his work. We have Ever After, A Cinderella Tale. Haven't seen it, got it cheap at that estate sale. I've decided that's just what I'm going to call it because it was kind of a weird time, but we have a 4K of Everything Everywhere All at Once, my favorite movie from 2022. Absolutely terrific movie. And one that Where'd that come from? One that I just like, yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once is so good. And even my issue with trying to understand the lore of it worked way better when I actually was able to think on it a little bit more. So up next we have, this is a box set of 3 films called Evil Puppets and Demonic Dolls Attack. So this has a DVD of Puppet Master 10, Axis Rising, as well as Blood Dolls and Depraved. So I have a Blu-ray of Axis Rising, so I haven't watched the DVD version of this, but I've seen the Blood Dolls film and Depraved, and I hate them. I hate them very much. Oh, this is Depraved. Decadent Evil 2, Depraved. I saw the first one of those as well. I hate both of these movies at the bottom. I really do. But they're in my collection now, so they were both boring movies. Anyway, we're coming at the end game here. We've got Evolution. This is a movie that I think, again, I wish that it had like a legacy sequel or something. Like, not all of the people in this film are currently like heavy hitter working, but man, this is a great Ivan Reitman. It feels like Ghostbusters 2.5. You know, it's Ghostbusters but with aliens. And I really enjoy Evolution. Up next we have The X. I bought this one completely blind because I was a fan of Zach Braff and Jason Bateman and Amanda Peet, and it was during that like heyday of Scrubs. It's not very good. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember just thinking it's not very good. We got the Exit Through the Gift Shop that I picked up at Blockbuster. That feels like a very exit through the gift shop thing to do, is pick up a movie at Blockbuster when they're closing. So, a great documentary about Banksy. The thing is, it's about a documentarian making a documentary about Banksy, and Banksy's making a documentary about that documentarian. That's about all I can really say on it, because it's been a while since I've seen it. I do need to revisit that one. We have Ex Machina on 4K. This was a recent 4K upgrade that I did during last year's Black Friday sales. I was able to rewatch the film for Kyle and Nick on Film. We did an episode on Ex Machina right around the time Civil War came out. But yeah, really, really cool movie. I still think it's probably his best movie, Alex Garland, as a director between those 4. But as somebody who likes all 4 of his movies at the very least. Up next, we have Exodus, Gods and Kings. I will forever lament that I never got around to watching this movie with my 3D TV, because it's a 3D copy of the film, but I will eventually see it, Ridley Scott's film. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. I've never seen the movie before, but we have the Exorcist series. So this has 2 versions of the original Exorcist film, the classic and the version you've never seen before. I think I've actually only ever seen the new version of the film, and I've been told there's a couple changes made that I wouldn't like, but I don't know if I've ever seen the original version of The Exorcist. I've seen the new release, the release 2001 recut of the film. It also has Exorcist 2: The Heretic, which is terrible, and actually it's one of the few sequels I skip when I'm watching a franchise. It's got The Exorcist 3, which I think is my favorite Exorcist movie, and it's got both prequels, Exorcist the Beginning and Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist. That's a lot of stuff that has to do with The Exorcist. That's the entire collection. I would say my perfect continuity is watching Dominion, and then The Exorcist, and then Exorcist 3. And I think that's the way I would stick with it. All right, up next we have Expendables. Expendables 2, which I prefer to the first film. Expendables 3 might be sitting in my watch pile right now, but this is Expendables 4. I've got all 4 of them here. I've only seen the first 2. I have not watched 3 or 4 yet. 2 I like more than 1 because I think it's in on the joke. But I've heard horrible things about the PG-13 Expendables 3 and horrible things about the recent Expendables 4, so I'm not really knowing if I'm like excited about any of that. One thing I am excited to check out though soon is The Extreme Adventures of Super Dave. This has Super Dave Osborne, Bob Einstein, rest in peace Bob, and it's his big claim to fame basically prior to being on Curb Your Enthusiasm. So yeah, I've never seen it before. I'd kind of forgotten that he even had a movie about the Super Dave character, but I'm very excited to check it out. Nearing the end here, we have The Eyes of Tammy Faye. This is the fictionalized, like, based on a true story, but, like, with Jessica Chastain. This is not the documentary version of that. Michael Showalter. I like Michael Showalter quite a bit. He did The Big Sick. And I think he might have co-directed Wet Hot American Summer, or co-written or something. He was in the movie as well, but he directed this one. He actually recently directed. I can't remember what the movie's called, but the Anne Hathaway one where she's the older woman that's getting some with the 25-year-old musician. I liked that one quite a bit as well. I'm forgetting that name. I don't know what that movie's called anymore, but I thought that movie was delightful, and honestly, Anne Hathaway can call me anytime. I'm not in my 20s anymore, though, but she can call me. Eyes Wide Shut, I think one of the best Kubrick films, one of my personal favorite Kubrick films at the very least. I think that movie is a dark odyssey nightmare of sex and perversion, and I just think it's fantastic. It's a great watch for the holiday time. All right, and finally we have Eyes Without a Face, the Criterion edition of this one. This is a French language horror film about a doctor whose daughter was in an accident where she lost like her face, like it tore up her face, and she's no longer looks normal anymore. So he's been like experimenting with other people to try and fix his daughter's face. It's got one of the best like prop pieces for a person's face ever, some of the best makeup effects. It's an incredibly dark and bleak film for 1960. It goes there, which is kind of surprising because it's the same year like Psycho came out, and you know, Psycho is a great movie, but it's fairly bloodless. I mean, and really you don't see any like actual stabbing stuff. You don't see any really heavy gore. It's all about like what you're almost seeing or kind of seeing. This movie is pretty graphic in a lot of ways, and so it's kind of incredible how they got away with that. But those are all the films in my collection with E in the letter at the beginning of them. So we're done for now. We're gonna come back next time with as we go through episode F, which is I think part 7 or something. We are going to continue through this physical media collection. We're going to finish this before the end of the year, trust me. And then we're probably going to have to do a new one next year when I get a bunch of new stuff anyway. So who cares? This is how we're operating now. Thank you so much for joining me. You can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com. You can check out all the links down in the description here. And thank you for joining me for letter E. We'll see you next time.